Before we jump into this episode, I wanted to make sure that you knew about my 5-day 7-figure business school. This is an opportunity to spend 5 days with me to be able to learn the blueprint to growing a 7-figure education consulting business. During these 5 days, I'm going to be teaching you the psychology of a millionaire. We'll talk through how to identify that $1 million problem in your business. I'll help you package your offers as well as the pricing. I'll teach you my 7-figure sales process and help you identify the leads to pitch by the end of the 5 days so that way you can start making money immediately. This is a mind-blowing opportunity that you won't even believe that it's completely free. So in the show notes, you have the link to be able to sign up for my upcoming 5-day business school, and I look forward to seeing you there.
You could do what you wanted to do. You said you wanted to trade and travel, but you didn't hear me. You decided that you were going to trade and be still. So let me go on and just destroy everything.
As a former teacher, I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your purpose in order to get paid. If anybody deserves to be a millionaire, it's an educator. I'm Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas, and you're listening to 7-Figure Educator.
Show some love for your host, Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas. Are we about to get cozy, y'all?
We have someone that I am so excited for you to be able to learn from. I feel pretty confident that this conversation is going to stretch you. And if you're open to the stretch, you will leave tonight in this conversation open to receiving a blessing that's a stretch, right? And so I'm excited for you to see a little different, to see bigger through this conversation that we're going to have. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to LB to introduce our fireside chat speaker.
Wealthy Black educators. Tonight's guest turned a side hustle of trading stocks into a multi-million-dollar brand and business. Let me tell you about this sister, all right? She is the woman who made over $1 million in a day trading Amazon stock. You can give it up for that. For the past 3 consecutive years, Trade and Travel has ranked the #1 school on Teachable, topping $50 million in revenue. And I think we all need to ask her a question. Y'all ready? Let's ask her, can you teach me how to trade stocks? Please welcome master trader, philanthropist, and teacher, Teri Ijeoma.
She's a bad man, just as fine as she can be.
I got my Oprah notes. I got my Oprah research for us to be able to have a really, really thoughtful conversation so that way you all can dream bigger and think bigger as a result of our time together. So first off, Teri, thank you for making time.
Thanks for having me.
To be with us here this evening and to be able to grow as a result of your experience. So we're first going to start with a little bit of a true and false, just to kind of warm us up and set some context for folks to get to know a little bit more about you before we get even deeper.
Okay.
All right? So true or false, you're an only child.
True.
True.
Well, on my mom's side, my dad had a whole bunch of kids. There's 10 of us on my dad's side. He be doing the most.
I might be able to relate. Okay. True or false, one or both parents are an immigrant.
True. I'm Nigerian. Any Nigerians out there? Hey.
All right. True or false, you received a full ride to undergrad.
True.
All right. True or false, you went to undergrad at MIT.
True.
All right. True or false, you have a pet.
Oh, false. I am a cat lady, but I have a panther on my wrist. That's my cat lady.
Come on, panther on my wrist, period. Okay? True or false, you have traveled to 4 or more continents.
True.
Okay? True or false, you have allergies.
I do. True.
What kind of allergies you have?
Girl, I don't know. Whatever in the air, that's what I'm allergic to.
Oh.
And maybe pepper too, which
Like
is
black pepper?
like black pepper, like
You're
it's in
allergic to
everything. I'm highly sensitive.
Oh, okay.
However, I will not die, so I still eat it.
Girl, so we can't we can't eat lemon pepper?
I'm gonna eat it. Again, I will not die, so I will
Okay.
eat some.
Okay. Because I'm like, if we can't eat lemon pepper or crab legs, I don't know how we can be friends. Okay. True or false? You worked in a school system.
True.
True or false? You were in school leadership in a school system.
True.
True or false? You have lived on a beach.
Yes, true.
True or false? You loved your job when you worked in a school system.
False sometimes.
Okay.
Mostly
spin the block on that.
Mostly false. Mostly
Okay.
false. However, I love the kids. Like, I loved all the hugs. Like, there were so many good days, but there were also some bad days. Ain't that a song? Sometimes
May your goodness be your... Jonathan McReynolds. Somebody, come on.
Yeah.
May your bad days mind you
With,
that you are good. God is good.
Yeah. I knew what you were talking about.
Yes, thank
I
you.
did. Mm-hmm.
May your okay, keep you near the cross. May that God be.
I knew the chorus right till you started singing, and then it went away.
Listen, I hear it in my head. Okay, welcome to my world. Okay, true or false? You have invested in a company.
Yes. Now I'm trying to get the rest of the words to the song. Watch, by the end I'll be like, and your bad days show that God is good. Proof that, yeah.
It was just me. It was just me. Okay, I had the melody right. Okay, true or false? You have graduated from seminary.
True.
True or false? You have had a 7-figure year.
True.
True or false? You have had an 8-figure year.
True.
All right. So,
What do you want?
and I'm going to ask this last one because we said it in the bio, but in case somebody missed it. True or false? You've had a 7-figure day.
True.
I lied. One more question. True or false? You've had 7-figure days.
True.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of dig into a conversation, and then I think the way that my mind is thinking about this conversation is from a journey standpoint. I know you're listening to this episode, and if you felt like you found your community, well, I want you to take the next step to join our community on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group, other Black education consultants just like you, and we're talking about proposals, we're talking about the next opportunity. People are collaborating and finding contracts together. It's an amazing, beautiful space that we've been able to curate, and I want to invite you to join. So go ahead and click the link in the show notes to be able to request to join my Facebook group, and I look forward to engaging with you there. So let's go back to when you were working in a school.
Mm-hmm.
Was it clear that you wanted to leave and become an entrepreneur, or did you kind of like just stumble into it?
You know what? I've been an entrepreneur all my life. So in high school, I was the candy lady. Like, I was the one that had the Starburst and the everything, and I actually recruited other kids to work for me. So, like, there was different classrooms. You just had to get your snack and then put your money in, and then somebody would go pick it up. That was me.
Come on, team. Okay.
And then in college, so I went to MIT. I was a Mary Kay lady. Yep, that helped subsidize. Yep. I convinced the school that too many kids were committing suicide, so they needed a relaxation day, and they needed to buy all my products. Mm-hmm.
Come on, marketing message. Period.
And you know they did. They sure did. They were like, "You right." It was a beautiful day. And then going into education, so I worked for Teach for America for a while. And back in 2010, hey TFA, back in 2010, I would actually help the teachers relocate. So I was part of Houston Institute, but I lived in Dallas. So all the teachers moving to Dallas, I'd help them relocate as a realtor.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've been in real estate. So I'm saying all this to say I always had a side hustle. And so for me, when I started trading, it was still just a side hustle at first. While I was in education, while I was at the school, I was just doing it to make extra income.
So good. Okay, so what was there a specific moment? Because here's what I think a lot of people might be wondering in the room. I feel like some people feel like there needs to be a sign, or they're asking this question. And to be clear, I don't have an opinion of whether or not you should be full-time. And I think I do have an opinion about you need to be positioned to experience your fullest financial potential, and that is likely will not be at your 9 to 5, right? And so I think there are some people who they're starting to wonder, they're like, what does it look like to make that decision, or the circumstances or context? And so for you, when you made the decision, was it like a clarity in the moment? And then was it like, I know I'm gonna do this, so I ain't afraid, I'm about that life, so let's just go ahead and like, forget 2 weeks, I'm going tomorrow? Like, what was it like?
Girl. So for me, it was very much, we had dinner the other day, and I kind of told a little bit of this, but I feel like my story happened 2 different times. In ministry, I was working all the time, burnt out, and so after seminary, I went and worked in ministry full time. And it was an after-school ministry. We would help kids after school. We'd teach them a little bit about the Bible, but then also work with them on their education. But in that role, I had gotten burnt out and I was tired. And I had said then, okay, Lord, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to go to Australia and just trade full time. But then I got scared. I was scared of losing, a consistent paycheck. I was scared of, this is something unknown. So then I started looking for another job. And that's when I decided to go work for a charter school. And I was assistant principal at the elementary. Same exact story happened. And I'm saying this because there might be somebody out there, like, because of fear, you're staying in your comfort zone. And then God just shook me out of that. Finally, I was at the school, and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'm so safe. I'm so secure. And then I go through the same toxic stuff again. And God was almost like, you didn't learn the last time. Why we got to go through this again? And so I'm at the school. I'm one of the founding admins. We're having a great time. But to anybody else who's been a founding member, you know that it's hard that very first year, right? And then on top of that, my friend had passed away. And so I remember being in, and I'm answering your question, but just kind of going a little bit. October, y'all know that's like the 2nd month into the year. My friend passes away, and I want to go to the funeral, but the other admin just saying I can't leave, so I can't go on vacation. And I remember, right? Thank you. So I remember going home that day, and I'm writing in my journal, Lord, if I could do anything in the world, what would it be? It would be trading stocks and traveling around the world. And hear me when I say this. Some of you all know what you want. You've already written it down. You've said it out loud, but for whatever reason, you're not allowing yourself to do that thing. Because it's October of the year. I write that down, and I feel like the Lord has confirmed, okay, then do it. But I did not leave. I stayed the rest of the school year questioning if that was a good decision. And then I'm to the point where I have a pro and con list, and I'm asking all my friends' opinions. And should I stay? Because if I stay, I get insurance and benefits. But if I leave and I start traveling, well, then I get to live the way I want to live. But insurance and benefits.
Teri, I gotta pour water because I gotta sip. Like, you talking good. You talking good.
So, to your question, it was not an easy decision. And I had two kind of different people in my ear. My mom is the fear, I guess fear monger would be the word, if that's a word.
Yeah. I'm not going to say no because I understand.
Right,
Yeah.
right. We gonna make a word.
Yep.
I think it's a word. It might have just been in Black Panther. Isn't it? I mean, he's
Killmonger.
Killmonger,
Yeah.
yeah. But you know.
It looks the same.
Right?
Yep.
We understood.
Yep.
So, fearmonger over here, my mama, she was very much in the be safe. You just did the first year. This is a job that everybody wants. You're an admin at the school. And you just put in all the hard work. Now somebody else is going to come after you and they're going to have it easy. And then this became my belief, like, dang, I suffered so much. And now the next person going to look like a hero because of all the systems that I set up. And so I'm like, well, maybe I should just stay in this. But it keeps getting hard. I remember one time another person from the regional office came into the building, and she came in and she sat me down and she said, Teri, as I was driving here, God told me that what he has for you next is better than what you're in right now. And I remember just as soon as she said that, just bawling, because I was having such a hard time letting go. Because it was familiar, it was comfortable. I had worked, this is at this point, I've been in education for 10 years. I've been working up to this. But, praise the Lord, I did not stay in that school. Because had I stayed, none of the accolades that you just talked about would have been there. So yes, it was extremely difficult. The Lord had to do some things to me. Like, girl, I decided, finally I got out of the school and I said, you know what? Okay, I'm going to leave the school, Lord. And that was the hardest decision. I hid in my friend's hospital room because I didn't want to talk to my principal and tell him I wasn't coming back. He was like, so can we have a conversation? No, my boyfriend is in the hospital. I didn't have a boyfriend, y'all. He was not my boyfriend. I was just thinking of any reason not to have the convo. But finally had the convo and then decided, Lord, okay, I'm going to leave the school, but I'm not going to travel like that part. I'll trade, but I won't travel. I got this beautiful apartment on the 25th floor of a condo in Dallas. At the time I was in Dallas, and it was gorgeous. Y'all, do y'all know about 2 months in, I had just finished putting all the furniture out. I had just finished putting everything out. It floods. On the 25th floor. This ain't Noah. Like, what you talking about, Lord?
2 by 2. 2 every day.
He's like, oh, you didn't want to hear me when I said you could do what you wanted to do. You said you wanted to trade and travel, but you didn't hear me. You decided that you were going to trade and be still. So let me go on and just destroy everything. Right? So after that, I had 2 suitcases to my name. Everything was destroyed. And y'all might be like, how on the 25th floor? Somebody was doing some drugs or something, and then they messed up the sprinkler system, and then it just happened to be right above my unit. And it had flowed all through but God. And then I had told him too, I said, Lord, I don't have the money to do this. That was my other thing. Insurance money. Now all of a sudden, everything is destroyed, and they give me a call, and they're like, okay, well, how much was all your stuff worth? And I'm like, I don't know. I told them, and they wrote me a check, and now you said you wanted to trade and travel. I told you, go do it. And so now I have money, and I have nothing else. I just have 2 suitcases. That was it. But go out and do it. And I know you got more questions for me, but was it easy decision? No. And I actually ended up making the wrong decision at first. But then I think the Lord was like, no, I have plans for you. Plans to prosper you for all my Bible readers. And if you don't do this yourself, I'm going to do it for you. And then there was a program that just out of the blue was traveling, and they had 1 seat left. Oh, really? And then I start traveling. I do my thing. I think that I'm running away from education. I'm going to be my own boss. And then they ask me, oh, well, will you teach us how to do this? And the Lord said, I can use your skill set, but just in a different way. That thing that I have planted in you, that desire to teach, that desire to serve, that desire to see people succeed, we can still do that, but I'm going to just use it in a different way.
So how long from that moment of there's one seat left to be able to travel to your first seven-figure year?
That one seat left was 2017. First seven-figure year was 2019. A year and a half. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's break that down.
Yeah.
Because, let me start here first. Because was there we talked this morning in terms around mindsets and beliefs. And so from your journey, like, did seven figures always feel possible? Or did it feel like it kind of like fell in your lap? Like, what was your mindset in that first, like, the journey to your first seven figures? What was the evolution of your mindset? What did that look like?
Because I had always been an entrepreneur, I always had this thought that I would be wealthy. But I thought that it would actually come through real estate. Because I had been doing real estate for all the educators, I thought that I was going to build up a real estate program and business, and that would be it. I had no idea that I would be selling courses to teach people how to invest in the stock market. That didn't even cross my mind. So, yes, did I think I was? Yes, but I had no idea that it would happen the way that it did. And then I think some of the biggest decision turning points on that road to seven figures. First decision was to leave the school or not to leave the school. That was a first big decision. Then once I left the school and started doing these little workshops, because now at this point they asked me to teach, so I taught a workshop in Thailand and a workshop in Vietnam, then came back to seminary and taught a workshop in Dallas. I thought, okay, well, I will never put it online. I'll just always do these workshops in person. But you have to remember, guys, if you're doing workshops in person, you still are limited to how many people you can reach. And your time is limited. Like, there's several limits, right? So my time is limited, my energy is limited, the people I can reach is limited. How many times do we limit ourselves with all these limiting beliefs, right? But that was the second decision. Deciding that I didn't want to do it just as a workshop, but also putting it online and offering it to more people. That was another big decision. After I put it online, it started going viral, another big decision, and definitely you can ask me about any of these, open book. Next big decision was doing it all by myself or allowing a team to help me. Because at this point, I've built the curriculum, I'm teaching everybody how to invest, but I'm also every week teaching live, pretty much because I didn't think that my program was good enough, which it was. But sometimes we, as perfectionists, we build it and people ain't gonna buy this. It's not worth it. So then we keep working ourselves. But then there was a point where it was like, no, I gotta actually allow other people to come in as coaches and not just be me teaching all the time. Finally, and that was a hard decision at the time, but now I look back and I'm like, what else? Of course that's the way it is. But it was a hard decision at the time. And then after that, the next decision was, okay, now I have a team. The next decision was allowing myself to step away when I was feeling burnt out. And how do you give over control so that other people can help you and that you can have a team and you can still grow, but you can actually, like you say, what's your phrase about preservation?
Self-care is preservation.
Self-care is preservation. That was another big decision, and it was the hardest because I just felt like if I'm not there, nobody's going to buy it. And that's not true. If you've built up a brand and you've built, like we're educators, your curriculum speaks for itself. People will still learn. But sometimes we get in our ego and we got to be the only one. So those are some big decisions on that way to seven figures and beyond.
If you are a Black entrepreneur and you are looking for a playground to be able to grow your business and receive a roadmap for building a 7-figure education consulting business, I want to personally invite you to my upcoming 5-day business school. You're going to have the opportunity to spend 5 days with me, and I'm going to break down my blueprint for helping you grow a 7-figure education consulting business. I'm going to teach you my 7-figure sales process. I'm going to teach you how to develop your offers. We'll talk about pricing. And my goal by the end of the 5 days is that you make money, which means I'm going to help you identify people in your network that you can begin pitching by the end of our 5 days. So there's no excuse, because guess what? It's completely free. I want you to go ahead, head to the link in the show notes to sign up and join me at my next B-School. I'll see you there. So I want to dig into this team piece a little bit, because, precursor question before I get into this team question, to set context. So we said like a year and a half to that first 7 figures. And then what was the time frame from 7 to 8?
1 year.
So then can you just talk us through what your team looked like? And if you had to do it again, would you do it the same way in terms of team? But just walk us through from a team standpoint what that looked like. So first off, this is really fast growth, really fast scaling. So what did your team look like as your business was growing and scaling?
Wonderful. At one point I had 42 people on my team, and now I've scaled down to 4. So it's been a road. When I think, and I know you guys learned about webinars and marketing, so I'm a visual person, so if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my paper. But I think this will help you all even as you're doing your webinars and things. So my funnel, I had to tell you about my funnel so you can understand my team.
Yep. And so just as you talk through this, when she says funnel, that's the 7-figure sales process that we talked through earlier. Go ahead.
My sales process. So for a long time, my sales process was twofold. I had one that said, okay, goes from podcast, anytime I'm speaking.
Traffic generation.
Then, thank you. You getting both of us.
Period.
Yeah. So my traffic generation tool was podcast. And every single podcast that I was on, I would then tell them about my webinar.
Lead generation.
And my webinar was how to make $1,000 in a day. And that webinar then would go into a welcome sequence.
That's some nurturing. Keep going.
Okay. I was like, what's it called? In church when you just wait for the call and response, people like, hey, amen. Okay. So then it would go into an email sequence. In that email sequence would then be my course. So that's kind of the sales funnel that I had. And because of this, the team looked like this. I knew that I had to get in front of, well, let me tell you what the team looks like, and then we can put numbers on it if you want. Okay. So first, we had to have a marketing team. The marketing team's whole role was to get us in front of, at that time, it was 300,000 people a month.
Pause. Give a second. How many people per month?
300,000.
300,000. Okay? Continue.
But it's easier than you think, because there's some influencers and podcasts and different people that's their audience size. So if you're on that podcast, you actually reach that many people just by being on 1 or 2 podcasts. So mindset thing has to be if I know, okay, let me go through the numbers a little bit.
Okay. Go.
Okay.
We ready.
So if at the time my goal was to get 1,000 students a month, and I had to backwards plan that, right? I mean, we know we educators.
Keep talking, Teri.
Okay.
I ain't tell her nothing. Go ahead.
So my goal is to get 1,000 new students a month. I know that only let's start. 1,000 students a month is the goal. So now let's go back to the front side. For marketing, I had to get in front of 300,000 people, because I know of those 300,000 people, only about 10% of them are actually going to sign up for what we are doing, right? So that meant that if we get in front of 300,000, about 30,000 would potentially click the link or do whatever I asked them to do. Remember, that's like the free webinar. From that 30,000, only about, so that's part of the team, the marketing. Get us in front of 300,000 people, and then your goal is to have 10% of those people sign up for this webinar. Now, I need a sales team that's going to take those 10%, those 30,000 people, and I want you only just got to get, their goal actually was to get 2% of those to actually buy the course. So from 30,000 people, that meant, or I think it was like 3%. And y'all, I might be getting my numbers a little bit off.
We following.
But it was like 30,000 people. We get 30,000 people on the webinar, and then from that, only about 900 people would actually become students. But the sales team, they're working on how to reach that 30,000 to get them to actually purchase.
Prospect generation.
And for that sales team, we actually did soft sales. We're not like our company wasn't one that had like bros on the phone and you call, but it was more so that we were following up with that email sequence, that we were in the DMs and Instagram. We were trying to just be more personable, and we also weren't really aggressive with our you gotta buy. It was more, do you have any questions? If you have a question, we're here. So we didn't usually have to do a whole bunch of hard selling. It was just making sure that we had contact with those leads.
Lead with value.
Mm-hmm. And then...
We're spiraling right now. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Then, now we have those 900 students enrolled in the course. And this is each month, right? But now we had a team that was over retention and student success. We want to make sure that those 900 people do extremely well in the course so that they'll refer the course to somebody else, and about 100 people the next month are going to come from referrals, right? And then we had a team that was over operations that was just making sure that everything was going smoothly so that those students had a good time, and now everybody was ready for the next cohort. And for us, we were doing it at one point at our height. We were doing a cohort every month. So we were trying to make sure we had 1,000 people every month. So that's what our team looked like. Is that helpful? Okay.
So helpful, because you gave us an example, because earlier today when we were talking about webinar strategy, we backwards planned the funnel from conversion rates. So the way you just gave us another example to be able to make this even more sticky of how you should be thinking about it as a business owner. And this is why I always say your business isn't unpredictable. It feels unpredictable when you don't know your numbers, you're not looking at your numbers, and or you're not planning. That doesn't mean you always hit your goals, but you're not surprised by it. And I didn't realize you ain't giving exit tickets.
Yeah.
That's why that quiz looked like the way you weren't giving no exit tickets. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit, because the conversation we were having this morning was around ownership. So we talked about 3 types of ownership. We talked about intellectual property. We talked about actual businesses, buying businesses, mergers and acquisitions. And then we talked about physical assets like real estate, which you talked about. I'm going to dive a little bit into intellectual property and ask this specific question, because in my Friday Super Soul Sunday research, I saw you've trademarked your name.
I did.
Tell us your thinking behind that.
I actually had so many pretenders. Like when you go on any of the social media, Instagram, Facebook, I've had thousands of people pretend to be me. So I wanted to be able to go and fight legally and say they can't use my name. So that was important for me.
What are other things that you have trademarked?
Yes. Well, can I back up just a second?
Of course, yep.
I want to also put into perspective, so I told you all number of students served, what that looked like financially. The course was about $2,500. On the high end, we had a $5,000 course, and then we had a $2,500 course. So when we were getting 1,000 students a month, on the low end, that was $2.5 million a month. So that's just, so that you can see kind of what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So trademark.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So trademark, other things that I've trademarked. Honestly, trademarks are interesting because when you have a course or digital content, oftentimes you can't actually protect it all the way. But I've trademarked my company's name, my name, and those are mainly the biggest ones.
My next question is around what I call like the hidden curriculum of wealth. As I'm continuing to get into different rooms, 7, 8, 9-figure conversations, one of the things that keeps coming up for me is, the greatest fears that most folks on their way to 7 figures have are actually not a conversation in these rooms. And typically it's because there's a lack of information that folks who aspire to be in these rooms or aspire to 7, 8 figures, they just don't know about the hidden curriculum of wealth to know why that's actually not something this room is talking about or thinking through. So as you think about your journey and your growth of wealth and things that now you have to think through from a financial standpoint, what have been 1 to 2 things in this bucket of like the hidden curriculum of wealth that you've had to navigate and or learn?
One big thing is that your money works for you. I'm not saying this to brag, but my money now will make $1 million a year without me doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's the case, now I have to lean into what really drives me. And I'm thinking through like my skill sets. I'm thinking about the fun of learning. I'm thinking about what life can look like outside of just the 9 to 5. And 9 to 5 is also your business, because sometimes your business will be your 9 to 5. So in these rooms, I think we're now starting to think through what is the highest version of ourselves and believing it's possible. Like that is what it is. Like money is just it's not a factor anymore.
Can you give an example of where now money is no longer a factor that maybe 2 or 3 years ago it used to be a factor? Or maybe 5 years ago?
Insurance. I told you guys, like, I was literally going to stay at the school just because it had insurance. But now we make enough to actually pay for ourselves. So any decisions like that, it's kind of like, no, the goal is that you outperform your insurance payment. Make sure that you have a business that can make at least $10,000 to put aside for health care. And then make sure that $10,000 is working in such a way that it pays for your health care for the rest of your life. Right? Like those are the kind of thoughts. Another thing would be taxes. I now live in Puerto Rico and I pay 0% taxes on all of my investing, and I pay 4% on all my business.
Because you live in Puerto Rico.
Because I live in Puerto Rico.
And was that an intentional choice to move to Puerto Rico, or was like, oh, I'm in Puerto Rico, and oh, this is the tax rate, and this is convenient?
No, it was a friend said he was getting 4%, and I was there in 2 weeks. So it was very much like someone had to hit me to the game, and then I could do it.
And what does hit me to the game look like? Because I think when some people think about that as educators, we typically think of hit me to the game is like someone down the hallway pulls me to the side and, they just lay out the game, or I go to Teachers Pay Teachers and I type in some keywords and I get output, or I go to ChatGPT and I ask a couple questions and that, spits out some things. So when you say hit me to the game, and now we're talking 8-figure game, what does that actually look like?
So going to places where there are other people around me who are doing better than me. I want to be in rooms where you all are doing better than me. I'm the small fish. I don't want to be the big fish anymore. I want y'all to tell me some things that I didn't know. So that's one. And then do you want some secrets of hip to the game? Is that what you're asking, or just the bigger, how do you get in?
Since you brought it up, I mean, you go ahead if you want to.
So in my world right now, and this is just me being vulnerable in my world right now. Right now, I've been trying to decide if I'm going to pay for one of my houses in cash or pay for it in a mortgage. I close next week. And hit me to the game is finding out that you could actually pay for it in cash because the interest rates are about to go down soon, get a better interest rate in a little while, and then you would call it refinance, but for me, because it's a line of credit, it's called a swap. So understanding that swaps are where they take your debt and then they turn it into a long-term loan, but they do it at a much lower rate. So understanding to even ask for a swap and that is possible. And I get a much better interest rate for paying it for myself versus doing the 30-year mortgage that the people want me to take. Hip to the game is... trying to think other just, I didn't know that. Let me keep thinking and I'll think more things.
Yeah. I mean, you gave us some gems.
Okay.
Some solid gems. How do you, we don't need necessarily a specific number, but at least a range of because I'm making the assumption, and you could test the assumption and tell me whether or not it's true, that the rooms are not free.
Yeah, the rooms are not free. You're right. True. True or false? True.
And what's the range in order to access the room in terms of price tag?
Yeah. Well, let's not say other people's room. To access my room is like $100K. So, yeah, they get pricey. Also, though, now I'm realizing that for my next level, the way that I'm accessing these rooms is not even paying for a group. It's now starting to be philanthropic. How do I sponsor world peace? And then you get into the room. That's actually another gem too. So many times we feel like we have to pay for things, and then we don't realize that actually if you sponsored it, you get all the tickets plus you get for example, our company is now sponsoring a big conference in San Francisco. If you sponsor, you actually get 130 free tickets. The tickets are $1,200 a piece. So my sponsorship is $30K, but the freeness is $120K. So just things like that. You don't think about it like that in different levels. You just think, let me get one ticket. So
what I heard is prioritizing return over price. That's what I heard. Of what's the value that's on the other side, which helps put the price in perspective. Because many people will get caught up on $30K versus, actually the value of this is over 6 figures because of this is what I get in return.
Yes.
I know you're enjoying this episode, but I wanted to pop in really quickly to make sure that you know about my event, 7 Figure Educator Live. It is the only event for Black educators who have a vision of a 7-figure education consulting business, and they are ready to make that vision a reality. You have the opportunity to spend 3 days in person with me and my team in Atlanta, Georgia, and I guarantee this is a transformative experience you do not want to miss. So to grab your ticket, you're gonna need to head to 7figureeducator.com. Again, that's the number 7figureeducator.com, and grab your ticket before the price goes up. The link is also in the show notes. Go ahead and click, and I'll see you there. I want to pivot just a little bit, and then in a moment here, we're going to open it up for questions. I want to now talk about the evolution in terms of friendships and family. And so, as you have gone through your journey, has anything shifted or evolved in terms of relationships? And if so, what did that look like for you to navigate that?
Yes. Recently, I had a friendship that I was a little sad about because we were roommates in Chicago. We grew up together, and then she made this like side comment that kind of inferred that like I don't understand anymore because I'm not in the same space. And it was kind of like this small thing, but it triggered for me like, dang, now you're thinking about my pockets. Has anybody else had somebody like that or had a situation where like now all of a sudden the people around you and like it could be in like the most random time. You think that y'all are kicking it, you think y'all are still cool and chill, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait, but they're counting my pockets.
I'm just trying to get like you. I'm just trying to get like you.
Man,
I don't know why I changed my voice.
Again.
Shoot, that's Big Teri, not the little Teri. What's up, Big Teri?
Right. My uncle is notorious for this. I smile and I giggle every time he talks to me because he's my uncle. He's like, that's Uncle Baby. I'm 40 years old and I still melt when he says that. However, Uncle's baby also want to live in my house for free and do whatever, so because they just assume you got it. You take care of the whole family. My dad will do that too sometimes. He's getting better, but I also will just say a piece of advice for you all. You also have to get better too at saying no. Like it's not the other person's responsibility to not ask. Because you're going to ask, right, for whatever you want. So it's not their responsibility to not ask. It's your responsibility to say no. And to say, like, no, the only way that I give out money to anybody, family, friends, is if you work for me. So if you want money, all my niece, nephews, everybody, they know, ask Aunt Teri what you can do for her. You can clean my garage. You can respond on Instagram. My dad is the one on YouTube comments. So if anybody is in there, that's him. From Nigeria, that's him. Like, oh, you want to go on a date with my daughter? Yes. Don't let somebody say something crazy. You're going to see my face and what you trying to say? Daddy, come on now.
Oh, I love that. Okay, last question before we open it up for Q&A. So we'll go ahead. We have 2 mic stands, one on this side and one on that side. We'll have a few moments for questions. And so if you have a question, you could go ahead and line up at the mic. I want to talk about the intersection of your entrepreneur journey and your faith. And so, what is that relationship? Like, how has your faith shown up in your entrepreneurship journey? Because an assumption that I'm making is that it hasn't always been easy, that there has been roadblocks, trials, and tribulations, and particularly when I think about going from the 7 to 8 figures in a year, of just the level of stretching that requires, not just in your business, but within you. Yeah. What is the role that your faith has played in this journey?
Well, when there was a flood on the 25th floor.
Period. Yep.
I said, okay, Lord, I surrender. Mm-hmm. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'm just, whenever somebody calls, I'll show up. That was my dedication to the Lord. Lord, whatever opportunity you bring forward in my life, I'll show up and I'll give my best. And I think that's in Colossians 3:23, I think. Do your best in everything as if working for God and not for man. I'll show up and I'll give it my best. And another big thing with faith and work, I think the biggest faith journey was in the beginning when there was nothing. So there was no course, there were no people knocking on my door, but I felt like the Lord was telling me, do this and finish. That was the biggest faith journey, to actually keep working, keep sitting at my computer, keep putting together the slide decks, keep doing the thing, sit and record when ain't nobody listening to you, and smile and act cute in front of your stuff. That was the biggest faith journey right there, to say, okay, Lord, I will be obedient. Because to love God is to obey God's commands. So, yeah. So if you know that the Lord is telling you to do something, to love God is to obey God's commands, even when you can't see it. Because after it was done, that's when it started to blow up. But the faith was in getting it done. Mm-hmm.
I just made a connection to what we've been talking about, because I heard that faith is required, across the entire journey. And there's a unique level of faith required in the experimenting stage. So we talked about the 3 stages of business on the way to $1 million, and the 0 to 250K of when you going live and ain't nobody in the room.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you post on social media, don't nobody click on the link.
Right, you like, somebody can heart it. At least heart it. Y'all scrolling, heart it. No.
Or when you do your first webinar and nobody registers.
Yeah.
Right? Or somebody registers, but then no one shows up. Right? That there is a unique level of faith required for that journey. And I just didn't want you all to miss that, particularly for folks who are in this room in that experimenting stage of what I heard is that there's a faith muscle that's being built, and it's the foundation of your faith in growing and scaling.
Yes.
Right? And I'll never forget Master P, I name random quotes, Master P, Percy Miller, talked about his very first concert where he opened for Tupac. And they actually introduced him as Mr. P. And he said, I went out, and out of that whole entire audience, only one person knew who I was. But I performed for that one like it was 1 million. Right? Yeah. Beyonce energy, right? And so I shared that as a connection to what you shared. All right.
In Bible words, we would say, be faithful over a few things. From the story of the parable of the talents. And I talk about that story all the time, Matthew 25. There is, y'all, for those that aren't aware, there's 3 people, and the master gives one 5 talents, one 3 talents, and one 1 talent. The one with 5 talents, y'all guess what he did with it? He traded it, yes. Yes, that's why I like the story, because he traded it. And he got another 5 talents. The other one also doubled their money, but one of them went and buried it in the sand. And God comes back, and he tells the 2, and you know what? Most pastors focus on the one that buried it in the sand. And they talk about how, he was disobedient, and if he had just invested it. But I focus on the 2 that did well. Because it says because they were faithful with a few things, God blessed them with so much more. So show up for those couple people that show up for your webinar, because that's where God is seeing, will this person actually do what I've asked them? Can I give them more?
First off, can we just give it up for this duo? Because you're going to get Master P and Matthew, okay? What other duo will give you Master P followed by Matthew, okay? Entry point, wherever you get it. All right, we'll start on this side with Holly.
Hi, Erica. Thank you for this conversation. Hi, Teri. So, Teri, I'm a student of trade and travel. I'm also the CEO and the chief financial educator for my company, which is called the Master Playbook. And we are on a mission to equip the next generation to master money and also empower their parents to give their kids a financial head start. So my question for you is, how do you keep your audience engaged and excited about your new offers when they've already completed your main or your signature programs?
Great question. And this is a question I've actually had to wrestle with myself, because I've been trying to decide what do I want my personal life to look like? Because in my personal life, I want freedom. And if I'm always trying to just create something new to answer their desire, then I'm never going to have freedom. So part of me, I actually had to think about, will I even create something else? But in the beginning, I didn't have, like, now we have trade and travel that was like just the stocks. And then they had asked for VIP, which was options. And in the beginning, I made that decision because I wanted to keep having my students learn, and I wanted to keep pushing them forward. So to answer your question, how do I keep people excited? I think the biggest thing is, in the current course that they're in, letting them know that there is a next. Because oftentimes the people who will buy your next program is the ones who are currently inside. And trying not to focus on just marketing so much to everybody outside that I'm not focusing on really delivering for the people inside. So that was important. Trying to make sure that if these people, what do they need, and then pushing them towards a next while they're still in the program. Mm-hmm.
So good.
But I will say, now I've gotten to a point, though, where I'm scaling back. And I've kind of decided, you know what? I've taught you everything that I know, and that's enough. And I don't have to keep trying to come up with stuff, and because you asked, now I'm creating something new, and I heard somebody else say that they wanted this, and it's like, no, this is what I've decided to offer the world. And if there's something else that you want to learn, I love that for you. There is someone who wants to teach you that. You know? So that's how I will respond. I hope that answers.
It did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go to this side.
Thank you all so much for this conversation. It has been really helpful. So my name is Kiani Epps, and I am the founder of The Responsible Homegirl, which is a financial education company where we help people stop wasting their money and learn how to manage their money well. And my question for you is, in the beginning stages of your business, is there anything that you wish you knew or would have done differently to get to a place, not necessarily faster, but just like some of those hiccups that you probably wouldn't have had to experience?
I'm a flip it. I'm an answer, but I'm a flip it. One of the best things that I did when I first started was partnering with other people in my same space and not feeling like we were competitors. Like, we would do so many webinars together, even though we both taught the same thing. So, for example, some of my closest friends now, like me and Dominique Broadway, we both teach investing. But we're on the phone together all the time. Girl, what you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, what you doing? You want to do something together? So not being afraid to partner, that's something that I wish I knew, and I'm glad that I leaned into when I first started. Because truly, to build audiences, sharing audiences was the best way to build.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Wait, one other thing. I'm like, I have more for you. One other thing is, I wish that I had honed into more of figuring out who are the people that I serve and what adjacent audiences are they in. So, for example, I'm teaching people about investing in the stock market, but people with the same mindset already invest in real estate. So if I want to go find some more people that I can introduce myself to, I'll go look for an adjacent audience. And then one other thing I will say is, don't forget radio. Oftentimes we are just on Instagram or social media, and we feel like that's the only way to grow. My biggest break came from Karen Hunter on the radio. Wow. And she saw, speaking of serving a few, I was part of, and speaking of being in someone else's audience, my friend Angela Matthews, she's also in the investing space. I was a speaker for her conference, and it was a smaller conference, but I was going to give it my best. Found out that Karen Hunter was in the audience watching. She ended up putting me on her Instagram and bringing me on her show, and that was the first day that I sold over 300K in like 2 days.
Wow.
Just because, one, I performed out my best in front of just a few, and then also don't forget radio.
Thank you so much.
A gem. A gem. All right, Dr. Roy, and then we'll flip back to our last question on this side.
Good evening. Thank you to both of you entrepreneurs for the nuggets that you dropped. Truly appreciate it. You spoke a moments ago about swap in real estate, and I've been lucky enough to dabble in real estate as well. But in what spaces are you using swap? When does that come up in the negotiation? Is that something that takes place between you and the mortgage company, or is it another purchase option?
This is between me and my bank. So it'll be like I have the money in my bank account. I'm talking to the wealth manager at my bank, and I'm telling them like, hey, I think I'm about to buy this house. Instead of buying it with a mortgage, I'd like to buy it cash, but once I buy it cash, will you all then turn this into something with a lower interest rate than that mortgage? And so then they're like, okay, thank you for giving us the heads up. Sure, we got you. Go ahead, pay for the house. And then on the back end, we'll just take that debt or that the outstanding cash, and we'll turn it into a swap.
Did you catch that in one of the rooms that you were in, or somebody dropped it to you as a nugget?
You know what? I caught the financial, like I caught the bank in a room.
Okay.
And then that person from the bank helped me to do this deal.
Nobody knows about that one. That was a good one. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, and let me also give you a little bit more on this. For like, y'all know my brain goes so fast, so then I have to like pause. Also know that there are something called margin, lines of credit against your cash. This was another like I didn't know until I got into this bracket. So when I got to to Goldman Sachs and opened an account with them, whatever cash amount you have in there, they will give you a line of credit for 70% of your cash amount. So you never have to use your own cash again. They'll invest the cash, and for me, I'm still a trader, so half of it I'm trading myself, but they'll invest the cash, and then they let you use the line of credit to buy whatever you want. So real estate, buildings, I'm an executive producer of a film right now. You buy all that with a line of credit. But then with the line of credit, that's where you tell them like, okay, well, I've paid for all these things with the line of credit, but the interest rate on the line of credit is at 6.68. Can you do a swap? And the swap is now at 4.89%. So that's kind of how, yeah.
So what I heard is you don't have a goal to be debt free. That's what I heard.
Not anymore. So right now, I'm pretty much debt free. I paid for everything in cash, but now I'm like, oh, y'all gonna take that, swap it around, do it real quick, like real low interest rate, and I can go buy some more stuff? Let's do it.
All right, last question.
Hey, Queens, thank you so much for this fireside chat. Like, of all of the nuggets, and there's so many, the breakthrough around my faith and destiny journey happened in this moment. So I'm going to try to paint a little picture, and I think my question will come from that. So in February of this year, my granny, who passed away in 2015, visited me in a dream. That was the first time I've ever had that experience. And she said, Jonte, remember you're my star, and I'm hooked on you. And the importance of that is because when I was 8, I lived with my granny in Arkansas, and she had told me to uproot and move to Kansas to live with my maternal aunt and uncle because there was something in me Dumas couldn't contain. So my whole life is a faith and destiny move journey. So I get that in February. In April, the job that I was at let me know that my position was being eliminated, but they like to offer me 2 additional positions. I immediately started to pray and fast, and actually prayed and fasted until May. And I said, I want to resign, because at that point, Dr. EJT, I was working on that mind trash and realized my value. And so those 2 voices of daddy saying, well, I had to search for a job for a year, on so on and so forth. But long story short, I walked away from a 6-figure 9-to-5. without another plan other than, God, I hear you, I'm being obedient, you told me to quit, so I need you to make a way. And I know it's for me to work for myself. Well, long story short, I have all of these gifts and ideas that I want to use, like you were saying, and in a different way. So what do you say to the person who is on this faith journey, who is walking in obedience, who is surrendering everything to God, but don't quite know how to put all the pieces together?
First, thank you for sharing, and my condolences about your grandmother. My grandmother was my person too. She was the one who said, tell them to kiss your butt and leave the school. She was the one also that said, okay, baby, it's time to come home, when I was traveling and had to come back to seminary and finish. And she actually passed away like a few days after I came back. And I was so grateful, though, that I had gotten a chance to see her again. If I had been traveling while that happened, that would have been so sad. So I'm thankful, thank the Lord for our grandmothers, right? And pushing us. So now this part of you stepped out on obedience, but you're not quite sure where to go. What was the thought when you stepped out in obedience? What did the Lord say then?
Well, he said, I want you to use your pain for your purpose, and I want you to empower Black women who have been silenced.
So he said, what was the first part? He said, I want you to use your pain for your purpose, and I want you to empower Black women. Mm-hmm. Well, whatever skill set it needs to use your pain for your purpose and to empower Black women, that's the skill set to lean into, which sounds like it's going to be all of them. Right? And then for your pain for your purpose, is there one part of your pain that you think would help people the most?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What is that, if you're willing to share?
I think the value piece, the being silenced, the being told how you have to shift your authentic self when you're in spaces and in rooms, even within rooms of our own people. Like, because I was burned by a Black woman. So even that, like that healing in that piece. So it's like, how do you make room for your authentic self when people are trying to diminish that and make you feel invisible?
I'm going to say it back to you, so you might want to write it down. Your webinar is called, How Do You Make... Y'all write this down for her. Your webinar is called, How Do You Make Room for Your Authentic Self When Someone is Trying to Diminish You and Push You Down. And you going to give them the 5 steps to make room for themselves?
Wow.
You did it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
So good. Y'all, let's give Teri a round of applause and thank her. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was so good. This was so good. Teri, we just thank you for taking the time, flying all the way from Puerto Rico to be able to be here with us. Somebody just got a vision of like you in a ruffled dress and you just like twirl all day like by the beach, you know? Any final words that are on your heart to be able to share with this audience of educators, being a former educator, knowing what it's like to be in the system? Raise your hand if you are still working a 9-to-5 in a school system.
Nice.
So, given what you know about that experience as an educator, and this is a room of folks who have a 7-figure plus vision for themselves and their business, what final words would you share?
Couple things. One, just up top, the world needs you. So if you've been worried about like, I don't know if the world needs another me, the world needs you. Price yourself well above where you think you need to be. When I first sold my first product, I remember I was in the classroom, I was at the seminary, and I told them that I was creating a course because I had heard somebody say, just tell them you created it. You don't have to have it done yet. Just say you created it. So in front of the room, I had just taught my intro to the stock market class, 70 people in the class. And I was so proud of myself. But I said, you know what? I'm going to just tell them that I have this course. And we'll just see if anybody buys it. And at the time, I had paid $30,000 for education to learn about investing. And I had bought it like on a credit card because I just knew I really wanted to learn it. So I knew that what I was teaching was worth at least $30,000. But then I said, well, but it's me and I'm teaching it. So the maximum that I would charge is maybe $5,000, which was actually still very good. That's one of the biggest things. I'm so proud of myself, even in the beginning, for allowing myself to put that $5,000 price tag. Because yes, it was more than all the people who had a little worksheet online that said $50, but I knew that it was worth it. I knew the value of it. And then in my little workshop, though, because it was my very first one, I said, well, the course is worth $2,000, but since this is the first one, I'm going to just charge 50%, so $1,000. And even in that, my mindset was, nobody's going to buy this from me at $1,000. But 2 people bought it. And I built my whole curriculum just trying to serve 2 people. And that curriculum is now what we teach over 40,000 people. But I built the whole thing just to serve 2. And so in that, make sure that you're putting significant value on what you're putting out there. And then tell the world, even if you do a sale, like start high but do a discount. You know what the price is, so say the price. But you can say, okay, well, for this first one is 50% off. For this first one is 75. Or because you're my special first friend, I'm going to give it to you for a little less. But the value is the value. So that's important. And then last thing, just making sure I'm like, Lord, you want me to say anything to them while I'm up here? You can do all things through Christ. For those that believe. And for those that don't believe, that's okay too. But just give your best in all things as if working for a higher power, not just the men and people around you. Because somebody is going to see that best and propel you forward. Even if it's just you seeing yourself give your best. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's give Teri another round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was so good, so good.